Joining me now is veteran diplomat, former Deputy Secretary of State, Ambassador Wendy Sherman, and Jonathan Dekel-Chen, father of American hostage Sagi Dekel-Chen. Welcome to both of you. Wendy Sherman, let's start with the breaking news. Turkey says that this 26-year-old woman was shot by the Israeli Defense Force, or Israeli forces, security forces. 2 other Americans have been killed in the West Bank. This is not the first. We don't know who did it. You know, there's been a lot of shooting on all sides. The settlers are well armed as well. But we want to talk about this and the tensions between the U.S. and Israel about the reality of those hostage talks. It's been going on since May.
Truly, we are in a really, really tough place. And obviously, your other guest, Jonathan Dekel-Chen, is very concerned about his son, who remains a hostage. There are 7 Americans who remain hostages. All I can say, Andrew, is I'm very glad that it's President Biden and Vice President Harris who are trying to manage this incredibly complex situation, as all of these are in the world. And the West Bank has been, in some ways, underreported because there's settlement activity there that increases violence and increases the likelihood of having 2 fronts happening, along with Lebanon, along with what Iran might be doing in the region. This is a very tough situation, and the toughest, of course, as a mother, is having watched Hersh Goldberg Polin buried, along with others this week. Just devastating.
And, Jonathan, let's talk about your family, your worries, your fears for your son, and the devastation. Your son has yet to meet his newborn daughter, born while he was in captivity. How did the families deal with what happened to Hersh Goldberg Polin?
It's a horror, no question. It's not just Hersh. 6 beautiful young people were murdered, executed by Hamas. The Israeli army recovered their bodies. These were unnecessary deaths. Obviously, Hamas is a savage terrorist organization, but there could have been an agreement 2 months ago that would have brought all of these people home. And I would add to that, the week before that, 6 other Israeli hostages, having been either executed or died from friendly fire, were recovered by the IDF. 4 of them were friends of mine for 40 years from Kibbutz Nir Oz, our home. So clearly, for all the hostage families and for anyone who cares about the future, the possibility of future, forget about peace, even calm in our region, the clock is working against us, because if the sides, particularly Israel in this case, continues to do nothing and just stonewalls the process, then the absolute sure result is, of the 101 remaining hostages, they're all coming home in boxes, if at all. And so it is incumbent on any right-thinking person, from the families to governments and to supporters of Hamas, quite honestly, to put on right now maximum pressure before, obviously, all of the hostages are killed by Hamas, and also to avoid what is clearly becoming a scenario of a major regional war. And the only way to diffuse that, seems to me, and most diplomats would agree with me, and statespeople, real statespeople, not just demagogues, the only way to diffuse it is by getting this agreement done in its current form. So I call on all friends of Israel, whatever your party or inclinations, Zionist or otherwise, and all friends of Hamas, whoever you are, this is the moment that you have to do your part to push both of these parties to yes.
And Jonathan, Wendy Sherman is nodding her assent here, former Secretary of State. What do you say when the defense minister, the Israeli intelligence services are all saying publicly and during the war cabinet meetings to the prime minister that it's time to put the hostages first and deal with Hamas later? And they don't. What do you as a father say?
Well, as a father and also as a patriotic Israeli, I'm outraged. I'm crushed, of course. I came to Israel in 1981, and this government and its behavior really since January of 2020 2023 have brought me to question that choice in 2023. I mean, it is an unprecedented situation in Israel right now, where the elected government, it is an elected government, coalition government, for the first time in Israeli history, is consciously and consistently working against the national interest of the country, purely to preserve its own power and in pursuit of an insane messianic vision of the most radical elements in all of Israeli society that constitute a tiny proportion. Yet they have, because of the coalition government and Prime Minister Netanyahu's legal problems, have enormous influence over it.
And Secretary Sherman, what can the U.S. do with an ally when his own country is so divided on this policy? Clearly, Hamas is the culprit. They could release them immediately. But what do you do with an ally?
Right. Hamas is the culprit.
But
and
that said,
we are working very hard with Qatar, with Egypt, to put pressure on Hamas. And at the same time, I would say to Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Knesset is out until after the high holidays, until late October. That means that he has political space to make very tough decisions. And who cannot respond? Listening to Jonathan speak about what is necessary, it is time for the Prime Minister to take very tough decisions. I really understand how difficult this is, but the Philadelphia Charter, which has been one of the issues, indeed, Israel can take control of that anytime it wants. There are many ways technologically to make sure that Hamas cannot use it as a way to undermine Israel's security. There are other options here. We should get to a ceasefire and get to it now. It's important. It's critical for the long-term security of Israel. And of course, it is critical for the livelihoods and the life of Palestinians.
Thank you so much. Jonathan, thank you very much. Of course, our hearts are with you in this terrible struggle.